Good morning and welcome to the final English lesson of this week. Today we're going to be looking at create a mood. So we're going to think, how can we use our word choices and sentence structure to create mood? And we'll think about what we mean by mood. But first, we're going to warm up. And much like the rest of the week, the way we're going to warm up is by retelling the story. And you can use your story maps that you created earlier in the week to do this. I want you to think of how much of the story you can remember. Can you remember all of it yet? Remember, you don't have to remember every single word. Okay? Keywords, key events, and the overall flow and structure of the story. Pause the video now and have a go at retelling it. Excellent. Hopefully you managed to remember a lot of it. Now, I want to remind you why it is so important we learn the text. So when we learn the text, we learn the structure of a story. And the type of story we're looking at is a wishing tale. Now this will be important for next week when we come to write our own wishing tale, because we'll already have a story structure in our head. Now that doesn't mean you have to stick to it completely. We can go off and embellish and make it our own completely. But it's great to have that initial understanding of the structure of the story. It also helps us learn new words that maybe we haven't come across before. It helps us to learn new sentence structures. It's also good because it just helps us remember a lot of the information that we've read. Okay, repetition is really important. Remember, practice makes permanent. So what we're going to move on to today is we're going to be looking at create a mood. Now mood, you might use the word atmosphere instead of mood, but it's all about creating a feeling inside the reader, creating an atmosphere, almost making the reader feel like they're in a story, like they can feel exactly what is happening. So here we're creating a mood with a sentence of 3. Now we've talked about the power of 3 many times this year, and that's where we use a list of 3 things in a sentence to build up that atmosphere and that mood, or that tension and suspense. Well, today we're going to focus on mood, as we've said several times. So in a story, we've tried to create an atmosphere or a mood by writing a brief description of the setting, using the prepositions outside and inside. Remember, prepositions are words that give position. And we've used those to start the sentences to contrast the moods, and using sentences of 3 to build a description. Now we're going to look at the outside sentence below carefully, and we will see that it tells us 3 things that the wind is doing. So outside, a squally wind howled. Okay, so by using howling, we're making it seem alive. It's that personification we've talked about. Rattling the roof tiles and shaking the window frames. Now we're showing what the wind is actually doing. What is it having an effect on? It's affecting other things. So we've used the weather to create an atmosphere, a storm brewing, almost a dark atmosphere. Now, I've had a go doing this myself, and I looked at keeping to the same mood. So the first one I looked at was outside, an angry wind screeched, scratching at the windows and lashing against the roof. Well, that was my first one. That one didn't take me very long. Okay, so I tried to screeched and scratch and follow the alliteration close together, and almost to make it feel like it's desperately trying to get into the house. Now the screech, we've got the animal sound, that personification. The scratching at the windows again is personification. You can just imagine the wind had claws trying to scratch through the window and get in. I then thought a little harder and came up with outside, a violent wind growled, attacking the ancient trees and relentless beating the battered fence. Now I will stop you there, and there is a mistake. It should say and relentlessly beating the battered fence. And that's making it sound like the wind just will not stop. It doesn't care what's in its way, it's just going to attack anything. Finally, outside, the ferocious wind roared, causing ancient trees to moan, windows to shudder, and roof tiles to shake. So I changed this slightly, and I said what the wind was doing, the ferocious wind roared, and then I put my sentence of 3. I said the three things that the wind caused to happen. So because it roared, it caused ancient trees to moan, windows to shudder, and roof tiles to shake. And what I've done there is I've actually made all the other objects sound almost human and alive as well. So the trees moaned, the windows shuddered, and the roof tiles shook. That's trying to make them all sound real. It's almost putting human actions onto those objects. So what I want you to do is to take this time to write 3 of your own high quality sentences which create mood, create a tension. So pause the video, complete that task. Excellent. Again, it would be great to see some of your sentences and some of your work, and you can upload it via Tapestry or email it directly to me. That would be great, or your teacher. And as an extra challenge for this section, what I'd like you to think about is what words and what sentence could you write using a power of 3 that would create a different mood, maybe a mood of warmth, of happiness outside, of joy. So what I'd like you to do is just write one more sentence in which you create a positive mood, a sense of happiness outside. So that would mean using positive adjectives and positive words that make us feel happiness almost. Pause the video, give that a go. Excellent. So now we've looked at the outside, it's time to move to the inside. So we've added a second sentence of 3 to describe the inside. So we start with outside, a squally wind howled, rattling the roof tiles and shaking the window frames. Inside, shabby curtains were drawn, a humble fire crackled, and Jack read silently. So it's quite a contrast between the outside and the inside. The outside's all angry, everything's shaking, everything's flying around. You can imagine leaves being blown away, trees swaying. But inside, although it's a little bit old, it's very calm. A humble fire crackled, nice and relaxing sound, and Jack read silently. Well, you don't really imagine someone reading outside in the middle of the storm, so it shows it's very calm, and it's a big contrast compared to what's happening outside. So now we're going to have a go writing our own version of the inside by picking out 3 details. So for me, I looked at this. Inside, a mug of hot tea steamed. The TV talked to no one in particular, and Hope, the Labrador, slept before an open fire. So the idea of a mug of hot tea steamed, it's very active, it's warm. The TV talked to no one in particular. The TV's on, but people are so relaxed they're not overly listening. And the Labrador just sleeping before an open fire just creates that sense of calmness. I then looked at something different. Inside, open books lay scattered, tired furniture wilted, and the embers of a dying fire let out their final breaths. So I've created quite a dark, unwelcoming home this time. The idea of open books scattered makes it almost seem messy, abandoned, uncared for. Tired furniture wilted. So the idea of it just drooping, just not being looked after. It's no longer the strong, fresh furniture of when it was first bought. And the embers of a dying fire let out their final breaths. The idea of a fire dying slowly and just these final little grey and red embers being left. It just creates this negative feeling. But I didn't want to focus on negative too long. Inside, windows steamed from the warmth of the open fire. Relaxing tones danced from the stereo, and Jack lay motionless, a smile on his face. So that idea of Jack just not moving, he's just in a happy place, smile on his face, listening to the sounds of the stereo, windows steaming from the warmth of the fire. It's just showing this nice, relaxed, calm but warm space that is completely opposite to the outside. So what I want you to do is I want you to write your 3 higher quality sentences. You could choose 2 which are really nice and warm and contrast the outside, and then you can try and write 1 negative if you want, where it's quite a dark and scary place. But the important thing is I want 3 sentences that are different to mine. Okay, it would be great to see some of your sentences again, as I said before. So pause the video and then we will come back. Excellent. So by now you should have 6 different sentences, and those sentences should help you to create opposites, describe an outside and inside. So what would be great would be to choose 2 of them or pair them up, and in your home learning book just write out a paragraph describing the outside and contrasting it with the inside, and maybe making a few changes so that you create a whole paragraph description. Remember, use words that earn their place, key vocabulary such as adjectives and adverbs, and really try to make the reader feel like they are in your writing, because that's what mood does and that's what atmosphere does. It makes you feel like you are there. Once you've done that, that's the end of the lesson, and I hope you've enjoyed it and enjoyed this week, and I will look at continuing these videos next week, and hopefully they continue to help you. Thank you and have a great weekend.